This is Southern Cross News with Rachel Williams.
Good evening. Polling booths have closed in the two most watched seats of the Super Saturday by-elections, which are seen as a signpost to our next Prime Minister. 500,000 people are voting in 5 by-elections brought on by the dual citizenship saga. Our reporter Sean McComish joins us now from Braddon. And Sean, this seat is crucial and it's looking close.
Yes, hi Rachel. Both Labor and the government went into this campaign 11 weeks ago claiming to be the underdog. Now, as Malcolm Turnbull has said throughout all of this, it's been a century since the government has won a seat off the opposition at a by-election. Now, on the other hand, it's been something like 20 years since it's been 20 years and the seat here has changed hands 5 times. Now, both leaders were on the ground in the northwest today, really fighting for every vote. Let's take a look now. As the sun rose over Braddon, the Prime Minister woke up to a very uncertain by-election Saturday.
Great morning. Good to see you.
Labor should be miles ahead, and it appears that it's very close. But the issue is a vital one for our future. Do you believe, do you support stronger economic growth, lower taxes, more jobs?
But Malcolm Turnbull and Bill Shorten weren't out of breath, reaching the end of a by-election campaign unlike any other. Even as voters went to the polls, the fight wasn't over. Malcolm Turnbull gate-crashing Justine Kay's campaign at a Devonport polling station.
Hey guys, good to see you.
Thank you.
The Labor candidate clearly not amused.
It was nice of him to come and join us for a little while, but it would have been nice for the Prime Minister to actually spend a little bit more time in Braddon before the election.
Labor started these campaigns well behind. Now it's up to the voters today. I think anyone who tells you now confidently they know what's happening is having a lend of you.
But he's still confident.
Tastes like a win.
Not voting was Brett Whiteley, who lives just outside the electorate. He used his time selling the government's message. He also brushed off concerns preferences could derail his path to Parliament.
Look, what I'm concerned about is waking up tomorrow morning with Bill Shorten beholden to the Greens.
It's not the Greens, but this fisherman in the state's far west who could decide the outcome in preferences. Casting his vote in Smithton, Craig Garland credited his popularity on Liberal attacks, with suggestion he could secure 10%.
Oh my word, yeah, like my support base just more or less doubled, I think.
After 7 weeks of talking, it was finally over to the voters to have their say.
Police are investigating 2 serious firearms incidents in the wider Hobart region last night. A man held up a Claremont bottle shop at gunpoint and a home in Bridgewater was targeted in a shooting.
Staff at this Claremont bottle shop were left shaken last night. Around 7:20, this man brandishing a shortened firearm and demanding cash.
It's brazen and it's quite confronting. And these crimes have a real effect, not only on the staff inside the store, but people that use that store. So we're really appealing for any information from the public in relation to this crime.
He fled down Cadbury Road with an unspecified amount of money in a white plastic bag with green handles. Residents in the area urged to check their yards for anything suspicious.
The man is described as being 180 centimetres tall. He's medium to solid build and he was wearing a black long sleeve t-shirt and black pants.
Police are also investigating a shooting incident at Gagebrook that happened shortly before the armed robbery last night. Investigators aren't sure if the incidents are linked.
The residents of that house are known to police. We don't believe it's a random act, but there was no damage. We have no particular description, but obviously we haven't ruled out a connection with the Claremont armed robbery.
One woman was inside the Ashburton Road residence at the time, but wasn't injured. Anyone with information about either incident can contact Crime Stoppers anonymously. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
A Tasmanian Uber driver has been caught more than 2 times over the alcohol limit. Authorities were conducting random breath testing in Sandy Bay last night when the man returned a reading of 0.125. Police say he had a paying passenger in the vehicle at the time. He's been charged with exceeding the alcohol limit and being the driver of a prescribed vehicle with alcohol in his body. Uber says it has a zero tolerance policy and the driver has been removed from the app. A research project with its beginnings in Tasmania has led to a breakthrough for glaucoma. It's the leading cause of blindness, but now genetic markers have been identified which could lead to new treatments and much earlier diagnosis.
Looking down the barrel of a serious eye problem, Helen McNeice is being examined to see how her glaucoma is progressing. She's had the condition for 25 years.
It's awful. It really, it just takes your independence away.
It's commonly characterised by pressure in the eye and damage to the optic nerve. Around 300,000 Australians have glaucoma, but health authorities estimate half of those are yet to be diagnosed. Crucially, this delays treatment, leading to irreversible damage.
It causes gradual loss of the peripheral vision, and it's not until it's very advanced that people actually notice issues from it. And by that stage, we generally can't treat it.
But early diagnosis could become easier thanks to a study that began tracking patients in Tasmania in the 1990s. Researchers have uncovered new genetic markers linked with an increased risk of the disorder.
We can identify new therapeutic targets for glaucoma and potentially even start sort of screening for glaucoma using genes.
I think it will be wonderful if they are able to do this for other people. I know it's not going to help me, but it will help a lot of other people.
Luckily for Helen, she's learned her eyes are doing well, giving her the tick of approval to getting behind the wheel again and restoring independence. Michael Breen, Southern Cross News.
It was full steam ahead in Don today as passengers took a ride on what was once the state's premier express passenger train, 40 years on from its last service. A journey stirring a flood of fond memories for many on board.
From Wynyard to Hobart and everywhere in between. For many, a ride on the Tasman Limited will certainly be one they remember. Passengers stepping on board for a trip down memory lane.
We used to be glad to, you know, from school holidays we used to be on it.
The kids loved it because they could run up and down and, you know, they weren't confined.
I used to go from with my mum from Burnie to Penguin and back again.
Today marking 40 years since the trip made its final journey.
We've put together locomotive and carriages that we used in the Tasman Limited way back in the 70s, and we're running that today as a celebration.
The service was most popular in the 50s and 60s, but as many opted for cars, it lost relevance.
By the 1970s, the patronage of the service had died off a fair bit. A lot of people were purchasing motor vehicles, the roads got better.
The train typically made as many as 20 stops along the way. By the time it reached Hobart, passengers were looking at an 8-hour trip. Train enthusiasts say the passenger service wouldn't be suitable today, but they'd welcome a tourist line.
A tourist train is certainly viable, and the preservation groups in Tasmania are working hard at the moment to re-establish some tourist trains.
The Tasman Limited will continue to be housed at the Don River Railway. Judy Augustine, Southern Cross News.
To the TSL now, and the Tigers have provided Lauderdale with a scare this afternoon, coming back from an early deficit to force the Southern Bombers to dig deep. North Launceston maintained their dominance at UTAS Stadium against Clarence, while it was a day to forget for North Hobart against the Pies. Lauderdale booted away to the early lead on the eastern shore before some tidy transition work from the Tigers set Tyler Carter up for the visitors' first of the day. Robbie McManus snapping the momentum back in the Southern Bombers' favour before Thor Boscott created something from nothing to extend the buffer to 33 points come the main break. But the Tigers refused to say die, with Mitch Carter helping to keep things interesting. The visitors kept coming, squaring it on the scoreboard in the final term to set things up for a thriller. The Lauderdale boys managing to just hold on, taking the match by a single point. It was a horror day for North Hobart at KG5, with the cellar dwellers not booting a goal for the first 3 quarters of play as Glenorchy ran rampant. Jay Bowden doing what he does best, with the Pies boasting a mammoth 118-point lead heading into the last term. The final siren couldn't come quickly enough for the young D's, managing just the one major before going down by 144 points. It was a fiery affair at UTAS Stadium, with tensions boiling over at half-time. Tom Bennett steady in front of the sticks to give the reigning premiers the slight edge heading into the long break. The Roos staying competitive right till the end, but it wasn't enough to dethrone the Bombers on their home deck, with the flag favourites getting up by 19 points. Triathlete Jake Birtwistle's impressive run of form has continued, with the Tasmanian finishing third amongst a world-class field at the annual Edmonton Triathlon in Canada. Consisting of a 1.5 kilometre swim, a 42 kilometre cycle and 10 kilometre run, Birtwistle was right in it for most of the race, with Spain's Mario Diaz claiming the win. And there were some big names on the court in Devonport today for the quarter-finals of the Tasmanian Open Women's Squash Tournament.
This is probably the best squash that we've seen in Tasmania for a long, long time. A lot of the players come here and then they leapfrog across to Melbourne for the Australian Open.
Former world champion Rachel Grinham was too quick for fellow Queenslander Jessica Turnbull, claiming victory in all 3 sets.
None of us come here to lose. We all want to win our matches. So we'll just, I just got to go on there and do my best today, and hope I do come off with a win.
The 41-year-old will face off against New Zealand's Abby Palmer in the semi-finals tonight, with the winner going on to the final tomorrow. Eli Evans and Ben Searcy have raced away to the early lead during an action-packed day of the Subaru Rally Tasmania. The pair held a handy 2-minute and 10-second buffer over Molly Taylor and Malcolm Reid after stage 1. It was a day to forget for local hopes Steve Glennie and Andy Sarandis, however, with their Subaru WRX sliding off the road during stage 2.
Good evening. 14 degrees today in Hobart and Burnie, 12 for Launceston and Devonport. 15 was the state's high recorded at King Island and Friendly Beaches today. St Helens 14 along with Grove. Flinders Island, Smithton, Low Head, Maria Island, Ouse and Strawn all reaching 13 today, with Liaweenie making it to 11 degrees after a cold start with the state's minimum of -3 degrees. Low level cloud is seen in the west, far south and north of the state, with the remainder mostly cloud free. A surface trough has produced a band of mid to high level cloud across the interior of the eastern states. A pool of cooler air is associated with speckled low level cloud over southern parts of WA, and high pressure ridges are resulting in the remainder of the country being relatively cloud free. Tomorrow a cold front will cross the state during the day. A ridge of high pressure sits in the Bight. A cold front is approaching the coast of Western Australia, while the rest of the country is dominated by a high pressure system. Winds 15 to 25 knots, reaching 35 knots about the west and north in the evening, seas 2 to 4 metres. A gale warning is current for western and northern coastal waters from Low Rocky Point to the northern tip of Flinders Island. A strong wind warning is current for all remaining coastal waters except for the lower east coast. A flood watch is current for northern catchments. Tomorrow, rain is easing in the south with 13 degrees for Hobart and Richmond, Ouse 12. Rain also easing in the north, Launceston 12, Devonport 13 and Deloraine 11. Over to the west, rain easing for both Burnie and Curry, 12 degrees for Strawn with rain there. Rain easing on the east coast with 14 for St Helens, Swansea and Whitemark also. Looking ahead now to Monday, showers contracting to the west, far south and Bass Strait Islands in the morning, then increasing in the north and west during the evening, snow falling to around 900 metres in the south in the morning. On Tuesday, showers across the state, although more frequent across the north and west, with another snowfall down to 900 metres expected in the south. Showers about the west, far south and Bass Strait Islands clearing in the afternoon and evening, and more snow falling in the south to 900 metres on Wednesday. And here is a look at temperatures across the mainland for tomorrow. Currently it is mostly cloudy with 9 in Hobart, Launceston partly cloudy 9, Devonport mostly cloudy with 9. And Rachel, the cold is here for a while longer with all of the snow expected in the south this week.
Does seem that way. Better rug up for the footy at Blunston Arena, that's for sure. Well, that's all your news for now. Thanks so much for joining us. Have a great evening. Good night.